Hey everybody, Teching 101 here, coming to you from a brand new location. I am not at my house. I'm not where I normally film, nor is this a green screen, although I guess you can't tell. Green screen technology's getting really good these days, but no, I can touch this wall. See? I can touch this painting. Yes, I'm at a different location right now. I've been traveling a lot this year, you know. I went to Japan back in April. I went to LA in August. I went to October back in, well, I went to October. I went to Vegas in October. Teching 101 goes to Oktoberfest. I don't drink, so I'd be the last person you'd expect to go there, but hey, maybe there's other stuff to do at Oktoberfest. I don't know. I'd like to visit Germany. That'd be a fun country to visit. Anyway, no, today I am broadcasting to you directly from the beautiful tropical paradise that is Cleveland, Ohio. Yeah, I'm from Pennsylvania, so I just kind of went one state over. So yeah, I'm currently in Cleveland. It's very snowy, very windy, very cold. It's like freezing rain right now. There's a window right here. I'm looking out, and I just see a view of barren trees and a stark gray overcast sky. So yeah, that's what's going on in Cleveland right now. It's not much different from a lot of places in Pennsylvania, but it's a nice city. It's a beautiful city, the little I've seen of it. But yeah, anyway, that's where I'm at currently. All right, so getting down to business. Elbath business. Today, we're going to be talking about One Piece, chapter 1169. 69. I remember back when the number 69 was the one that everybody used to giggle at. The chapter title is I Have to Die Now. Oh, wow, that's really intense, Oda. You're really going all in with the chapter titles on this one. Okay, wow, shit. All right, we actually kick things off with an epic color spread. This is a really cool one. It is the Rocks Pirates in black suits, basically posing for an album cover. They came out of nowhere. They did one EP and then they disappeared. The Rocks Pirates. So let's see who all we got here. We got Rocks in the center, petting a tiger. Oh man, the series would have been way cooler. I mean, Rocks was already a cool character. He would have been about 10 times cooler if he had a pet tiger he was carrying around. That would be sweet. We see his official color scheme. We saw that earlier in the cover of Shonen Jump. Rocks has white hair with blue, kind of almost lavender highlights, and his beard is also like a lavender purple color, okay? And so we see him there. Next to him is Captain John just counting some money. Then we see Edward Newgate, Whitebeard, Stussy, Buckingham Stussy is like hanging out on top because Whitebeard's huge. So Stussy's kind of like sitting like right here on like his arms and just kind of like holding his chin, like, okay. We see Gansui, my man Gansui. He's gonna be the pirate that's gonna save the world. He's a zombie now, but he's gonna come back to life somehow and save the world. He's eating a bunch of grapes, and we see his official color scheme. Gansui has red hair. He has a long red beard and a red like top knot, okay. Then we have Shiki, the golden lion, floating around behind everybody, so he does have the float powers. That's 100% canon now. We see Kaido in his younger years. He just has the kanabo. He's the one that's like posing for an album cover, I think, the most out of everybody. He has the kanabo and he's just like staring off to the other direction, not even looking forward. We see Wang. No. We see Wang. We see Ochoku. Ochoku's hanging out. He's holding a bottle of liquor in one hand and he's giving everybody else the middle finger in the other one. Yeah, screw you too, Ochoku. I believed in you, man. He has green hair, by the way, in case you're ever curious on Ochoku's, color scheme. He has slicked back green hair. All right. Next to him, we have Don Marlin, which I'm gonna place a bet. Gambling's legal in Cleveland, right? They legalize gambling here. Yeah, okay. So I'm gonna place a bet this might be the last time we see Don Marlin in the entire story, because he died during the flashback, and he doesn't seem to have left an indelible imprint on anybody in the One Piece world. The only other time I could maybe see Don Marlin is if we ever get a flashback from Beiji. You know, maybe we get that Beiji flashback at some point, and Don Marlin plays a critical role in that or something. Mentioning him doesn't count. We'll place bets on this being the last time we see the dude, okay? He has like, not green, what is that, teal? He has teal colored hair, which, okay. He's there smoking a big cigar, has this big, esoteric shotgun that he's wielding. And then we have Big Mom, Charlotte Linland. She's just eating a cake. She's just there, just, munching on cake. We have Barbell in the background. Big dude, Barbell. Even bigger than Gansui and Whitebeard, honestly. He's a huge guy with that fiery yellow, like, Super Saiyan hair. Barbell dies as well. Barbell didn't do much, did he? I think he only had, like, a couple of lines of dialogue in this flashback. We see Silver Axe there, Kyo, just with his eponymous silver axe. He just has that thing. Stroizen is there. He's put on some pounds. He has a gun. And we see Gloriosa. Gloriosa, almost disappointingly, canonically has blonde hair. I guess it's just because Elder Neon right now has, like, silver hair, like white hair. I assume she also had white hair when she was younger. And I think somebody described her as having, like, her beauty as, like, an icy gem. So I guess I always assumed she just had white hair. But no, she was blonde in her younger years. And we also see her snake. Her, every Kuja has, like, a snake companion. And we don't know the name of hers. But, yeah, the snake is there as well. So there you go. There's all the members of the Rocks Pirates. Actually, not all of the members, because we don't see Gil. We don't see Gil Bastar anywhere. I'm a little disappointed in that. You put Wang in there, but you don't put Gil. But it's a pretty sick cover page. I mean, I could see this getting framed and getting it put on my wall. Like, that is pretty neat. All right. So, we are kicking things off in Elbaf at Gyaban's house 14 years ago. So this is continuing the flashback that we started with way back in chapter 1152. Do you remember chapter 1152? I'm going to actually ask you to pause this video right now if you don't remember and go read chapter 1152. I'm being dead serious. It'll come up for a lot of things. I'm going to be referencing it a lot in this chapter. You might as well just go back and reread it right now. I'll wait. All right, you back? Okay, cool. All right, so Shanks is visiting Gyaban here. Shanks apparently just left the Holy Land and is visiting Gyaban and reminiscing about old times. They were in the bath together and then they got out and they continued their conversation. Ripley is there. Colin is also there. They're enjoying a lingonberry tart because that's Ripley's favorite food. And so, Gyaban apparently just tells Shanks out of the blue, oh, hey, by the way, Roger had a son, apparently. Yeah, Garp told me all about him last time I met him. Well, okay, Garp didn't tell me all about him. I guess the way here is just like, oh yeah, Roger has a son. Seems like it. That's what Garp told me about, okay. So I don't think Garp would have went into full detail on, like, the entire story involving Rouge and Ace and where Ace is currently right now in the Goa Kingdom being raised by Dadan. I don't think Garp would have went into all of that information, but at some point Garp runs across Gyaban, who is retired at this point, and basically tells him, like, oh yeah, Roger had a kid. Now, this is a big deal for, like, a number of different reasons, okay? So, but it does set up something interesting for Shanks on why Shanks showed up at Marineford. That actually does tie into that. That's pretty cool. But up until now, we were led to believe that Rayleigh and Gyaban and all the other members of the Roger crew had no idea that Roger had a son and the son was Ace. I was actually going to do a video about this, and I'm kind of, like, I might still do that video, but, like, it's going to be different now because of this information. I was basically going to bring up that, like, yeah, sure, the crew is split up, but yeah, I mean, come on now, like, Rayleigh has to be reading the newspaper every now and then. He sees there's this up-and-coming pirate called Portgus D. Ace, and he looks like Roger, kind of, and he's about the right age that, he would be Roger's son, and he has the will of D, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe it would have been worth looking into, but no, at least Gyaban knew, and Gyaban told Shanks, and I think, like, this is probably after Shanks ran into, I think Shanks ran into Rayleigh. Yeah, after he met Luffy. Shanks meets Luffy, loses his arm, eventually ends up at Sabaody to talk to Rayleigh. So Shanks might have also told Rayleigh about Ace. Maybe he didn't, not really sure. But at any rate, Gyaban says, like, oh yeah, Roger's son has done a good job of keeping out of the Navy's watchful eye up until now. So Ace was 20 when he died at Marineford. He would have been 22 right now. This flashback is 14 years ago. So Ace would be 8 right now, and Luffy would be 5. There's 3 years of difference between them. Sabo is the same age as Ace, I believe, so he would also be 8 years old. And so they're just living at the Goa Kingdom at the moment. In fact, Luffy right now is like probably undergoing the training of Garp, like being thrown into jungles and tied to balloons into the stratosphere and all the crazy shit that Garp did to train Luffy to be a strong marine. But anyway, yeah, Shanks is very surprised by this, and he says that, oh yeah, I basically have a little brother, and I didn't even consider this, but yeah, because Shanks and Buggy, as Gyaban says here, were like the sons of Roger and Rayleigh and Gyaban and the whole Roger crew. So if Roger has a biological son, by extension, yes, Shanks would be like an older brother to Ace. But since Ace is also the big brother of Luffy, and like Sabo and Ace and Luffy are all brothers as well, does that mean through like connective transitive property, that means Shanks is Luffy's big brother too? I mean, Elbaf! Okay, yeah, probably. Let's go with that. This lines up with why Shanks was maybe so dead set on go rescuing Ace. And he did get there a little bit late, but remember, it was Kaido that kind of hampered that operation. If it wasn't for Kaido stopping Shanks, then Shanks might have gotten there way earlier and might have saved him because he's like, oh, I have my little brother out there. It's weird, right? But yeah, it does also bring up the question, like, where the hell were Rayleigh and Gyaban and everybody else when all that shit was going on? We know Rayleigh was just kind of chilling out at Sabaody, drinking and watching the whole war on the big screen. Gyaban was either in Elbaf with Ripley. Okay, that's fair. that's fair. Gyaban is like, okay, I hear Ace, Roger's son, is gonna be executed at Marineford. Gotta get my axes. Time to go save the day. Ripley walks out in sexy lingerie. Is like, hey, Yasan. And then Gyaban had to make a decision at that point. He made his decision. But now, okay, to be fair, we don't know the whole thing here. We just know that Garp told him some stuff about Ace. We don't even know if Gyaban knew the guy's name, you know, if he knew Ace's name. He might have just said, yeah, Roger had a son, bye, you know. But still, having that information, keeping track of pirates in the world when Ace comes to prominence. Ace was an extremely prominent pirate. He was offered a fucking warlord position at some point. He had a bounty of like 515 or was it 550 million? I mean, he was a big deal. Even before he joined the Whitebeard Pirates as the 2nd Division commander, Ace was a big deal. So like, you know, I feel like Gyaban knowing that, okay, Roger had a son. Let me take a look at this wanted poster here. Portkus D. Ace. Wait, Ace was the name of Roger's sword, and he kind of looks like Roger, and I know Roger has a son, and he looks like, yeah, that's him, right? If there's anybody that's gonna be Roger's son, it's gonna be that guy, right? So there's some questions there, but it is interesting that Shanks did in fact know about that. Alright, so with that being said, Shanks also says that, oh, he's got Roger's blood flowing through him. He might just become the next Pirate King. And Gyaban brings up something here, and I actually am really happy with the way that Gyaban presents this. He's like, you know the title is not hereditary, right? You know, like the title of Pirate King, Kaizoku Oni, is not just going to be passed down from father to son, nor should it be like how the way that should go, right? And Gyaban even goes on to say that most burdened with high expectations fail to reach the top. You know, the idea that Roger was like, aye there, Rayleigh, I'm going to have a son, and he's gonna be the one to find the One Piece. Yarg, I be king of the pirates, Goldie Roger, and he's gonna be as well. You know, now, Ace definitely did not like his dad very much. Ace did not care for Roger, and he wanted to go out to sea to be a pirate in his own way. He still wanted to be a pirate, but he wanted to be his own pirate, right? He didn't want to be hampered with the expectations of Roger or anything like that, right? And, but, you know, I assume he achieved that. You know, I feel like he himself achieved that. Then he had another goal when he met Whitebeard, to make Whitebeard the king of the pirates, which he authoritatively did not achieve that. Sorry, Ace, but, Anyway, he's kind of basically just setting it up that, like, hey, just because Ace was the son of Roger does not mean Ace was destined to be the Pirate King, or even he should have been the Pirate King, right? It's about what you want to do. Did Ace want to be the Pirate King? Hell no, he absolutely did not want to be the Pirate King. He wanted to make Whitebeard the Pirate King. Meanwhile, we have Luffy. Luffy's dream is to be the Pirate King. So it should be someone that wants the title, not someone that's just passed through it like a king to the prince or some shit like that, right? So I actually really like that line of dialogue from Gyaban there, right? Shanks disagrees. He's like, I think things are more interesting that way, the way they are there. And so they continue their conversation. Now we cut back over to Oust Castle, which I hear just means West Castle, so I'll just call it that. I'm a little bit on the fence on the naming scheme of all the different villages and locations in Elbaf. For one thing, they're really easy to remember. It's just the Hunter Village, the Artisan Village, the Alcohol Village, West Castle. And, that makes it super easy whenever I do the Geography is Everything video for this after Elbaf wraps. But, in the meantime, I'm like, okay, yeah, but you could have had some cool, Nordic names to throw in there too, but whatever. At any rate, we cut over to the castle, and this is a panel directly taken from chapter 1152. It's the panel outside of the castle, the establishing shot, where we have Loki arriving from the prison. He just jumps, it looks like he just jumps straight from the primordial realm to the sun realm. He just lands right in front of the castle. We also see Elder Jarl arriving in a cloud canoe, and they're getting there. And then they're walking into the castle, and we cut to the foyer of the audience chamber, where all the guards are lined up outside of the throne room, and they all have their naganatas, their spear weapons, and they're standing at attention, and they're kind of confused. Their job is basically just to stand there all day and make sure no one goes into the throne room and welcome in guests and everything. But they're hearing a whole conversation of Harald talking to himself. Well, I guess no, his other guards are in there too, but they're hearing some commotion going on from the throne room, and they're not really sure what's going on. So we cut inside, and remember Harald ordered one of his men to chain him to a pillar. In fact, I thought when he was ran through with all of the spears and the pikes and everything, I thought he was chained to the pillar in a way that maybe you could the silhouette and everything, the way it was situated. But no, the moment that somebody came to okay, King Harald, you wanted these chains, you wanted me to chain you to a pillar, King Harald, and he just gets cut down immediately. And at this point, Harald is still himself. He still has his own thoughts. He's thinking to himself, but his physical body is being controlled. So his body just takes out his sword and just cuts down somebody trying to restrain him, right? It's like, Your Majesty, why did you do that? He was just trying to chain you to the pillar as you ordered. Is this some kind of sick test? What are you doing? Right? And so Harald is standing there, and he's like, he's thinking to himself. He's like, why did I cut that soldier down? My body is moving on its own. Is it because of those orders? It's simply forcing me to, cut down everybody that's in my way. And then you hear Emu's voice in Harald's mind once again. Mobilize the entire nation, Harald. Form an army of giant warriors. And Harald is like, is it really impossible for me to disobey these orders? Is it gonna mess with my thoughts as well? Will this last forever? His body is under the control of Emu right now. I would throw out the option of just why don't you take the sword and just try to cut your damn arm off and see if that does something. I mean, it did something because Shanks lost his arm that had the Shallow Covenant on, and we don't actually know. Maybe Shanks, if he got in the range of Emu, would still be controlled. Maybe it doesn't matter if you cut off the arm, but it's a moot point with Harald because his physical body is already locked down. He's kind of exhibiting some, if you've ever read about locked-in syndrome, where your body could be, in a coma or something, but you are still conscious, you can't really move. That would be terrifying, and he might be experiencing something like that now, where his body is moving, independent of himself, but he's still, thinking, oh God, when will this end? The country will suffer as long as I live. This body of mine is a walking hazard. That's the name of the album cover of the Rocks Pirates. Walking Hazard. That's cool. All right. Anyway, he remembers when he went to Marineford and ripped off his horns. He remembers meeting Saul. He remembers the speeches. He remembers the school and the kids growing up in a peaceful Elbaf. And he's like, it'll be all for nothing. These last 144 years of mine. Oh, okay. So there we go. Harold is 144 years old. I think he is... Okay, I think he's slightly younger than Dorian Broggy then, if he's 144. Well, he would have been 144 14 years ago, so if he was still alive today, he'd be 158. And yeah, Dorian Broggy are both 160. So yeah, Dorian Broggy are 2 years Harold Sr. So there you go. But yeah, he's been alive for 144 years at this point. He's just like, I understand what I need to do. I have to die now. And there's the chapter title right there. Title drop, roll credits. And so he looks to his men and he's like, men, I need you to end me right now. Bring it on. And so, hey, if nothing else, I'll tell you this. Harold's guards do not stand around like a bunch of idiots. You know, they can clearly tell something is off, something is weird. Harold goes on to say, and he begins to just slice them down, too. Like, hurry! Before I'm completely taken over, you must cut me down! And it's like, Your Majesty, what are you saying? Ah! You know, and so they don't sit around like, we can't possibly do that. Now, he is, like, massacring the guards right in front of their eyes, okay? As he is shouting for them to stab him. So, this is exactly the point when Loki kicks down the door, when there was like one of those attendants outside, like, ah, yes, Loki, an elder Jarl, the king is expecting you, I must just, and then Loki's just like, screw you, I live here, this is my house. I was born in this castle. And Loki just, kicks the guy into the throne room with his foot, breaks the door down. And then you see Loki and Elder Jarl walking into the audience chamber at the exact moment that like 20 guardsmen are just running Harold through with their spears, right? And so Loki, of course, is like, what the hell are you guys doing? And so you see Harold there, but it's a little bit different than what you would have expected. This does not kill Harold. Remember, he has the power of the silver package. He has the power of the deep sea covenant. So he now has the immortality of the God's Knights. And this shit isn't going to kill a God's Knight, right? So this is actually really sad, where Harold, after being run through, is like, no, I really am immortal. Like, the acceptance of this, the reality of what immortality actually means. Like, wait a minute, I don't want to take orders from Emu. I know, I'll just end it, and then I don't have to worry about it. Wait a minute, I can't die! Oh, shit! Harold really begins to realize the weight of everything now. I am regenerating, and you can tell that, with every fiber of his being, he's trying to resist this. He's trying to stop the regeneration, but it is happening independent of his own will at this point. It's like the opposite of hockey or something. I'm regenerating. Please stop this. He's picking up his sword. All of you, run! And so, the sad thing is all of these guards got together to stab him, but now they're all within an arc of his sword. So he just rears back and then just cleaves, like, a bunch of the guards all around him. All of the spears fall out of Harold, and he just heals right back up. How am I supposed to die now? Someone help me! And so he's just, thinking these things is like he's trying to rack his brain, figuring out some way to stop his rampage as Loki and Jarl enter, just shocked and stunned about what's going on. So now we come back over to Gyaban's house again. We continue the conversation between Shanks and Gyaban. So, there's a couple of things with this. Okay, so Shanks is like, I'll cut to the chase. Well, I showed up and we had a bath together and we chatted about old times and then we had some lingonberry tart, but I'll cut to the chase. All right, Shanks. All right, Harold and I were both bound by the most shallow pact to serve an individual they call the Great One. This is just the shallow sea covenant. And even with this, and so Shanks begins to explain what the shallow covenant does and what the deep sea covenant does in greater detail. We don't really learn about the deep sea, the abyssal, or like the gold package yet, but we at least learn about the bronze and the silver package. So when you are branded with the shallow covenant, the bronze package, right? When you are within range of Emu, or I guess maybe within the confines of the Holy Land, I would say at least that, you are unable to disobey orders. You cannot defy orders at that point, right? when you upgrade to the silver package, then the eyes of the Great One can see you all over the world. Okay, so the upgrading of the symbol does have something to do with range at one point. Okay, and so Shanks is mentioning, yeah, even with this mark, the power of it when you are within proximity of them, when you are within the Holy Land, is absolute. And Gyaban is like, oh, that's a curious power. I've never seen anything like that before. And so Shanks kind of reminisces, and it's like, yeah, it only meant that me and Harold couldn't have talked freely in the Holy Land. So remember that scene when Shanks and Harold were discussing things? Shanks was pretending to be like, oh, you are a lowly giant. I am more important than you. And then later on, Shanks went to go meet Harold out of the Holy Land on the sea. And that's when Harold is like, I thought I recognized you. You're from the Red Hair Pirates, aren't you? Okay, so this is something I missed a couple of chapters ago, or maybe last chapter. It's been a while. It's been like a 2-week break. But remember the scene where Harold was like, I think I recognize you, Shanks. And Shanks was playing dumb, like, I've never met you before, you stupid giant. And so a lot of people were thinking, oh, what if Harold back in the day met Roger and his crew back when Shanks was a member of the Roger Pirates when he was young. And so, you know, like, it's been a while, so Harold is like, I think I remember meeting you at one point. No, it wasn't the Roger Pirates, it was the Red Hair Pirates, which does confirm the Red Hair Pirates, yes, according to the timeline, should exist at this point 14 years ago. So yeah, Shanks left Roger's crew, went to Logtown, witnessed the execution, asked Buggy to join him. Buggy declined. Shanks leaves, goes to the East Blue, travels around the East. He was already there at Logtown. Meets Yasopp, begins to form the Red Hair crew, and then at some point leaves the Red Hair crew to go into Marijois, to infiltrate Marijois, I would say. This is not like him just abandoning his life. Obviously, Shanks is still the same guy we always knew. Or is he? Is he Shamrock? I don't know. But anyway, yeah, the Red Hair Pirates with, like, Lucky Roo and Yasopp and Ben Beckman, all of at least the core crew, have to exist at this time because, like, it is very shortly after this, like a couple of years after this, when, or I guess actually a year after this, when the Red Force docks at Fuchsia and stays there for a whole year. And then, you know, 2 years from now, when Luffy is 7, is when he eats the Gumu Gumu no Mi, right? And so yeah, the Red Hair crew have to exist at this point. They're probably waiting on standby somewhere, or maybe they're in Elbaf too with Shanks at this point, but maybe they're at the dock or at that tavern or something. Not really sure about that. But anyway, yeah, so Harold knew about Shanks prior to this. I knew it. You're from the Red Hair Pirates, aren't you? The way he says that kind of implies he's never maybe met the Red Hair Pirates before. Maybe he's just read about them. Because remember, his job as, you know, a servant of the government was to go out and just, you know, kill all these pirate crews. I wonder which pirate crews the government was sending him after. Were they sending him after, like, Yonko level crews? Or crews like commanders of Yonko? Or, like, people? Because maybe they were like, yes, go and exterminate the Red Hair crew. But he obviously didn't do that, but he did know about them because they were pretty infamous at this point in the world, right? So Shanks goes on to say, Harold probably would be happy to join the God's Knights. I got the hell out of there, you know, when I could, because Shanks knew that, like, okay, if I get the upgraded tattoo, if I get the Deep Sea Covenant, I'm not going to be able to just escape their eyes. You know, I can kind of get away with the Shallow Covenant. I can at least leave Marijois and they won't be able to manipulate me. But Harold would probably be happy to do that because, you know, he wants to be a Knight of God. If he agrees, he'd have to enter into an even deeper covenant. And Gyaban, kind of strangely, it might just be a translation thing, is like, is that a problem? Is that a problem, Gyaban? Yes, I would think it would be. Shanks is over here talking about, yeah, you know, there's like this great one that's like this shadow ruler of the entire world that marks us with this brand, this covenant of the devil to not permit us to disobey their orders. And now Harold is going to enter into an even deeper covenant. So that's a problem, huh? I'm like, yes, I would say so, right? Okay. So he's like, yes, the covenant of a full God's Knight blesses them with inhuman strength and immortality. They can also conjure this thing called the Abyss Pentagram, which looks really sick, and it allows you to travel vast distances. It's like a fast travel for the latter half of the series. But anyway, in exchange for all that, here's the rub. The Great One's voice can reach them anywhere, anytime. And so disobedience becomes totally impossible, even if you're far away. the Great One can control you. And we see this cool depiction of a God's Knight like losing an arm and then having it grow back, and Emu's eyes and fire and the Abyss pentagram. It just, as Shanks is explaining this whole system to Gyaban, Harald would be fully under their thumb if he enters into a deeper covenant. Those guys have boundless appetites for greed. I can't see them honoring their word. So at least Shanks has a little bit of the awareness of like, yeah, I don't think the world government's gonna be all that trusting, and I don't think that they're gonna give Harald everything that he wants. So he says to Gyaban, I really don't think Harald should join. Okay. So remember way back when this flashback started in 1152, Shanks actually told Gyaban, like, I'm here to meet Harald. I got something I need to talk to him about. It's really important. And he explains to Gyaban everything here. Like, yeah, there's this like satanic covenant and everything like that, and you're not going to be able to disobey, and you're going to be able to be controlled anywhere you are in the world. I better warn Harald about this immediately. He's in the country, right? Yeah, he's at the castle. Okay, well, as soon as we're done having a bath, catching up on old times, talking about Roger's son, having a lingonberry tart, chatting it up with Ripley, and playing some chess, then we'll head over to West Castle, and we'll finally have a conversation with the guy. Also, we see a flashback with Shanks meeting Harald, apparently after their interaction at Marijwa. They have their interaction in the Holy Land. Then they leave, and we see Harald talking to Shanks freely. Shanks even says, it meant we could only talk more plainly when we were away from the Holy Land, which they were. Where Shanks tells him, hey Harald, sorry about all that at Marijwa. Hi, I'm Shanks, I'm a member of the Red Hair Pirates. And Harald is like, oh yeah, I remember you. Okay. Why didn't Shanks just tell Harald about the Covenant shit then? Maybe he didn't know about it. Okay, maybe he was in the process of learning about all this shit when he was at Marijwa. Maybe he didn't know about the whole Covenant at that point. Still, maybe back when they only had the shallow covenants, maybe Shanks could have been like, hey Harald, I'm still learning about these Covenant things. I know you think they're really cool and badass. If they ever offer you a further contract, maybe you should turn that down. I'm not 100% sure on all the things they do yet, but I really think there's something weird and creepy going on with the world government. They're making us sign contracts to somebody called the Great One. Maybe you should be a little bit hesitant on that. Now, would Harald have listened? He didn't listen to Rox now, did he? So I don't think he would have listened to Shanks. I'm just saying that, like, it seems that Shanks is like, this is a matter of urgency. Like, I need to meet Harald as soon as possible to let him know not to get the Covenant. Well, this has already happened like several days prior to this. Like, Harald got the Covenant way back at Marijwa and then sailed with his men all the way back to Elbaf. So, like, this has been at least a few weeks, if not, a few days, if not weeks, since the Covenant has already been in place. Harald had time to get all the way back to Elbaf, give a whole speech to his countrymen, go into the castle, draw a pentagram on the floor, and here we are right now, right? So, it seems like it's a level of urgency, but Shanks isn't really living up to that urgency is what I'm saying, right? Okay. At that exact moment, almost perfectly timed, like, I need to go tell Harald not to trust the world government. Boom! Giant, ominous explosion of hockey starts blasting out of West Castle. We cut back in. Loki and Harald are embroiled in Mortal Kombat! Dun 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 dun. Okay, so Loki's got his big hammer. It's not Ragnir, but he's got a big hammer. He's clashing with Harald with his sword. And he's like, knock it off, old man. What's going on here? Man, where's all this strength coming from? And how come you survived all those stab wounds? What's going on? Right? Even Jarl takes out his sword. He's like, what happened to you, Harald? Come back to your senses, man. He draws his sword. All guards report to the throne room now. Everybody in the foyer is mobilizing. Remember, way back at the beginning of this flashback, it was mentioned that, Loki murdered like 113 guards, I think it was. I think it was like 113 guards were massacred, and then plus Harald were killed in the massacre at West Castle by Loki. That was the story, at least Hyrudin told, because Hyrudin was not here. But yeah, so all the guards start mobilizing. Jarl and Loki together manage to like grapple Harald, both of his arms, and manage to like throw him to the ground, and they crack his head against a pillar. Man, wouldn't that be crazy if that's all it was to like knock away Emu's influence? Just hit their head against a hard wall hard enough, and then eventually they're like, all right, I'm back. Just do a hard reset really quick. Yeah, no. Explain yourself, Harald. What happened? All right. And so Harald is there, and he's just like, Elder Jarl, I've done something unforgivable. My sanity is slipping out of my control. Okay, and this is a moment. I'm going to go through the monologue here, because this is like the last monologue Harald has before he gets completely taken over by Emu, okay? And this is what he says. He's like, listen to me, Loki, my son, listen to me. Tell the people of Elbaf what happened here, Loki. Tell them I went insane. Tell them I slaughtered all of the guards. My reputation has been stained with blood. And I trusted the world government. I was so focused on making Elbaf a world government nation. Tell them how I was tricked and I was a fool, and how I ended up in this miserable state. I ended up enslaving our own people as warriors for the government. And Loki's like, what are you talking about? How were you tricked? What do you mean, Dad? It's like, they never intended to honor their terms from the very start. Well, Harald, at least eventually you figured it out. All the guards are listening to this too. It's not just Loki and Jarl. There's a shit ton of guards in this room as well that are all hearing this. And so, Elder Jarl, Loki must be the one to eat the legendary devil fruit, and then he must use it to kill me. There is no other option at this point. No one else can beat me with these godly powers. Only Loki with the devil fruit could possibly hope to pull it off. I am the worst king in Elbaf history. And so he's like shouting, pleading with his son, please take my life, Loki, and then elevate yourself as a hero, as the one that slayed the corrupt king of Elbaf. And he even says, I don't even care how I'm remembered. That's not important. All that matters, with tears in his eyes, all that matters is the future of our country, Loki. Please. Now, Loki and Harald do not have the best relationship. I wouldn't say Loki hates Harald. In fact, there were even some moments when Harald was like tucking Loki into bed and things like, maybe Dad does care about me. So I think Loki understands that Harald cares about him. It's just that Harald was very busy, traveling the seas and making allies with member nations and tearing off his own horns and subjugating himself to the world government. And so Loki's kind of like estranged from his father. But even at this moment, when Harald is telling him all this and he's tears in his face, and Loki knows how much the peace of Elbaf matters to Harald. It's like the only thing that he cares about, And so Loki is just like, you'd go that far, would you? And so Loki understands what this means, and he does get up, and he does run to go get the devil fruit. All right, I like this scene between them, because Loki doesn't argue or tell him, like, you were a shitty dad, or anything like that. He's just like, yeah, you do suck. You betrayed Rox, and Rox told you to, he didn't say anything like that. He doesn't have any time for blame. He just realizes the gravity of the situation, and he goes and follows his father's last wishes, okay? He tells him, I'm counting on you, Loki. You're the only one that can make things right now. Now, this whole plan that Harald has, I'm honestly not that upset about it. Now, this is clearly not what happened. Tell the people of Elbaf that their beloved king went insane one day and slaughtered all of the guards. By the way, Loki's king now. That obviously doesn't work, and that's not going to make sense to the people, because all they know is that Loki is an arsonist that goes around attacking villages and killing people and setting animals loose in the towns, and then Harald is like their most beloved, benevolent king. So this isn't going to work, but that's not what this is about right now. Harald is literally out of ideas. He's at the end of his rope in more ways than one. He literally has no other options. He's immortal. He can't stop this. He's feeling his sanity slipping away by the moment. So he's like, literally, all I can try to do is tell them, hey, just tell everybody I was evil and Loki's the hero. Is it gonna work? No. But as a last act of desperation from Elbaf's king, it's all he can do, right? And so, yeah, I'm okay with this, just because, like, what else is Harald supposed to do at this moment? He's literally out of options. A lot of other moments in this story, like especially when he went to Marineford and ripped off his horns, I've been seeing some stuff people have said, like, well, there were no other options for him at that point. Yeah, I can think of a few other options he had at that point. Just not allying with the world government would have been probably an option. Here, he literally is running out of options. He has nothing. Like, his physical body is being controlled. His mind is about to be taken over. The last scraps of his own consciousness he has, he's imparting this to Loki. So here, I would agree, he is out of ideas, out of options, right? So at that moment, you just see it, like, click. You see his head, like, do that. And then all of a sudden, he just cuts down everybody. He knocks off Jarl and Loki, and he cuts down all the other guards with absolute no remorse. One of the guards is like, "You're not even King Harald anymore!" And he, sneaks up and stabs Harald right through the neck with a spear. It just goes straight through his neck. And then he's just like, "Indeed, that Harald you knew is gone. I am now the vessel of the Great One." So he rips off the guard, throws him down, kills him. The wound in his neck heals up just like that. Now, it's important to mention at this point, Harald's personality is not completely gone. Like, he's not like just a mind-controlled puppet of Emu, of like it's not like Emu is speaking through Harald. He doesn't look like he's Domi reversied the same way as Dory and Bragi and Rox did. He doesn't have the wings, he doesn't have the fangs, he doesn't have the creepy eyes. He looks the same, but he's acting as if he's Domi reversied. Remember when Dory and Bragi were Domi and reversied, and the giant warrior pirates were trying to, like, reason with them? Emu gave them the order to go kill Jarl. And so they're like, we can't kill Elder Jarl, Dory and Bragi. We looked up to him ever since we were kids. Dory and Bragi were not like automatons. They agreed. They were like, hell yeah, you said it. We did look up to Jarl and Jorl when we were kids. They were the greatest warriors ever. We did respect them. But now they're old and they need to die. We'll take a page out of Captain William and kill those old people. You know what I mean? So it's like they're still themselves in a way. Like, they still recognize themselves as, like, Dory and Bragi. And in Harald's case, Harald, he's like, I am King Harald. I am the king of Elbath. I will raise an army for Lord Emu, who I am the vessel of. So he still remembers everybody. He knows Loki is his son. He knows Elder Jarl was once his friend. But it's just like, Emu has taken the place of the most important person his entire life. And if you look at it that way, it's absolutely terrifying. Like, it's like Tsukishima's Book of the End ability from Bleach almost. It's like, the most important individual to Harald right now is not Loki or Jarl or Ida or anybody. It is Emu, and he will obey whatever Emu demands. And so Harald puts out a call to the entire castle over the Denden Mushi, like, there's criminals roaming in the castle. Seal the chamber doors. Lock down the castle. No one comes in. No one comes out. Right? And so they're like, yes, your majesty. So all the guards outside the castle that have no idea what's going on here, they all lock down the castle so no one can get out, no one can tell the story. And so Harald tells them that no one will be allowed to escape. You're all going to die here. The truth will die here with you. And so one of the guards is on the ground like, everybody run. And then Harald just steps on his face and just kills him. And so he's like, I shall deliver this country into the hands of my master, Lord Emu. And so Loki starts booking it for the treasure vault to get the devil fruit. He's like, damn it, why do I have to eat the devil fruits? Don't I lose the ability to swim if I do that? Oh, shit, that sucks. Oh, well, everyone's going crazy. Dad's hacking everybody apart. I don't have any options. I guess I'm doing this, right? So Loki, once again, dude has dedication. He knows he can read the room and understand the situation. He's like, I don't have any other opportunities. I need to go eat this devil fruit. Meanwhile, Harald is like, no, Loki, I'll be the one to eat the devil fruit. And he's like, you just told me to eat it. Make up your mind, old man. And so Jarl at that point, Jarl takes out his sword and he runs Harald right through with it. And just like, no, Harald, if you ate that devil fruit, it would be the end of the world as we know it. And I don't feel fine with that. He like tries to like cut down Harald. Jarl used to be a giant warrior pirate, man. He might have been part of the greatest generation of giant warrior pirates ever. We just don't know. So he runs Harald through. Harald turns around, takes his sword, and just plants it right in Jarl's head. That's exactly what the scene was before in silhouette, but we see it right here. And Harald even brings up, this is a key that Harald still remembers his own memories and stuff. He's like, I'm afraid I must return the legendary sword you gave me long ago. So Harald remembers this, and it doesn't look like he's saying this sarcastically. I mean, maybe he is, but he's like, ah, yes, Elder Jarl, you gave me this legendary sword a long time ago. Well, it sucks I gotta use it to kill you, but you're trying to stop my plans for Lord Emu, so I'm kind of upset by this, but needs to be done. You know, that's the way it's going. That is way more terrifying than just, I am a servant of Lord Emu. I will now attack you. I will now go eat devil fruit and kill Loki. It's way more, like, impactful here, I think. So, Elder Jarl gets stabbed in the cranium. He's now running after Loki. But at that exact moment, right when he's going after Loki, like, I won't let you eat that devil fruit, Loki. Boom! Shanks with Griffin, Gyaban with his 2 mountain-slaying axes up here, and they slice down Harald at the same time in a pretty sick combo move. They realize exactly what's going on right now. And so Jarl's on the ground bleeding, and he's like, Gyaban, is that you? Elder Jarl, oh no, are you okay? Yeah, don't worry about me, the helmet stopped the sword. Oh, thank God. Oh, don't worry. Everybody was worried about Jarl. The helmet stopped the sword. Doesn't this also imply that now the helmet is just stuck on his head because it's pinned to his head with the sword? That would suck. He just can't take off his helmet for 14 years. The ultimate case of hat hair. You know, like he literally cannot take off the helmet. Ah, that would suck. I feel like there'd be some calluses that would, you get an infection that way, you know what I mean? Also, but the more pressing matter is the fact he has a long sword wedged into his cranium. I think that's more of a pressing issue there. That tends to lead to infection. So anyway, yeah, they look at Harald here. Harald lands on the ground here, and then Jarl is imploring them, please, you need to stop Harald. You cannot let him catch Loki. And so then Gyaban is like, no matter how you slice it, Shanks, this leaves us in a little bit of a pickle. And Shanks is like, Harald, open your eyes. Look at what you're doing. Harald gets back up. He heals from the wounds from the combo attack like nothing. And I would assume Gyaban and Shanks were using Conquerors. Maybe they weren't, but whatever. Hey, Shanks, this immortality thing ain't half bad. I truly feel superior now. All of Elbaf will bow before me. Shanks is like, oh man, is there any way to stop these orders? Is there any way for me to cancel these orders? Don't worry, Shanks. There is, in fact. All you and Gyaban gotta do is hit him really, really, really hard with Conqueror's Hockey, and everything will be good. Alright. So, we cut away and we get to the last scene of the chapter. Before we get to that, though, I want to talk about this scene because I would say it directly contradicts what Gyaban said in 1152. And it does. However, it contradicts it in such a crucial way. I almost feel that Gyaban was lying to Hyrudin because that makes no other sense. Or there's something else going on here, like Gyaban gets hit in the head at some point and loses part of his memory. Let's go back to 1152 really quick because I gotta read you this scene, okay? So, they're thinking about releasing Loki, and Hyrudin is obviously against it. And then Gyaban speaks up and says, hey, Hyrudin, release Loki. And then Hyrudin goes on this whole thing about, what, Yason? 14 years ago, Loki murdered my own father, his father too. He killed 113 members of the castle. He left Elder Jarl on the brink of death. He killed his own dad, and he's the worst criminal in our country's history. And Hyrudin says this, and all of the other new Giant Warrior pirates, they don't say anything, but they're kind of like agreeing with him. And then this is what Gyaban says in response. I know all that, Loki. I know all that, Hyrudin. But on that day, I felt a strange emanation of hockey coming out of the castle. Shanks and I went there to investigate, but maybe looking back, we didn't have the whole story. You had the whole story. All right, he had the whole story, all right? I assumed he meant, like, they showed up at the castle, they walked in with Loki, like, killing his dad. And then Loki ran off, and all the guards were dead. So, like, what else was Shanks and Gyaban supposed to extrapolate from that? Jarl, with the wound in his head, might have not have remembered anything, right? So that's what I assumed happened. That's not what happened. Shanks told Gyaban. Shanks knows everything about the Covenant. He knows about the seals. He knows that Harald made a higher promise with the seals, so they know all of that. They know about the covenant with the Great One, and Gyaban knows about that too. Has now been turned by Emu and has become evil. Maybe not Emu, maybe they don't know exactly about Emu yet. Roger should have at least told the Roger crew, hey, I fought this weird shadow monster at God Valley that looks really weird. Maybe Gyaban would have been able to connect the dots between weird shadow monster with crazy powerful hockey that Roger had to team up with Garp in order to defeat, and this Great One they keep talking about, but whatever. Gyaban knew that Harald had been turned evil, and to the point where they even fought against Harald, alright? So, I'm thinking, in this scene in 1152, Gyaban had to lie to Hyrudin. Hyrudin is like, we can't free Loki, he did all these horrible things. And Gyaban was like, alright, I can't tell him that his father got turned evil by an evil satanic covenant of a shadow monster. I can't tell him I'm the one that actually cut down. What if Gyaban and Shanks were the ones that killed Harald? What if Loki wasn't the one that did it? What if, or maybe Loki fought him, but maybe it was Gyaban that did the finishing blow. Maybe he was the one that actually killed him. And so maybe Gyaban at that moment, remember, he's injured, he's being healed by Chopper in this scene. Maybe he's like, I gotta be very tactful. I gotta be very careful of the way I explain this to Hyrudin. Because if Gyaban just comes out and says, oh no, Loki's not the one that killed your dad, I did, but it's just because he turned evil, Hyrudin probably would have been like, what? You killed my father? You call him evil? And ever. No, it was magic that made him evil. What? You speak nonsense. Like, it's a non-zero chance that Hyrudin might have went into a blood rage there, so I can see why Gyaban might have had to change the story around a little bit. They changed all the facts around, see? Like, yeah, that makes sense there. So I just wanted to bring that up, right? Okay, but yeah, Harald gets up and he's like, hey Shanks, immortality's not half bad. I feel superior now. So Gyaban knows this is not how Harald talks. Harald, remember who you are, Harald. He is Harald. He is 144 years old. His son Loki is an eye disease warrior. He loves a number 6 from Wendy's. He does not give Facebook permission to use his photos. Remember who you are, Harald. So I don't know, I think it's Shanks and Gyaban and Loki. They're going to be the ones to ultimately take down Harald, with Loki might not actually getting the finishing blow. Alright. So then, final scene of the chapter, we cut to the treasure vault. And this is, once again, a scene from 1152, where the lock on the treasure vault is broken, and then a shadowy individual walks in. Now, in the 1152 version of this, and I'll even put this up, you can kind of see horns coming off of the silhouette, but it is kind of hidden a little bit, so it's a little bit obscured. Here, it is clearly Loki. So it was Loki that opened up the treasure vault door. It wasn't somebody else. It was Loki that opened the door and was like, this is the forbidden devil fruit passed down within Elbaf, and we see the chest there. Behind the chest, and it's even there in 1152, I went back and checked, it's a little bit hidden, but you see Ragnir. You see the hammer of Ragnir behind the treasure chest. I completely missed that in 1152. It is a little obscured, but if anybody caught that, good for you. You deserve a cookie. Anyway, here it's a little bit more noticeable because when Loki opens up the door, he sees the chest, and then you see Ragnir begin to shake. So it's like a metal hammer on the stone floor, and it begins to rattle. It begins to, like, clank as the hammer itself is, like, moving slightly. And then as Loki is approaching the treasure chest to get the legendary devil fruit, we don't even see what it looks like yet. It's still in the treasure chest. Ragnir the hammer levitates and swings at Loki. And Loki's like, what the hell is this thing? And he dodges it at the last moment. And the hammer is just making hammer noises. It's just like, just like, the sound effect of like a metal hammer, moving around and like, crunching against the stone and things like that, right? So Loki, jumps down, dodges the hammer swing of Ragnir, end of the chapter. And probably, I think this is going to be the last official chapter of 2025. The way that this will go a lot of times, depending on the year and the way it's set up, is that we might get 1170 unofficially before the end of the year, but this will be the last official chapter of the year. So what a way to end it, too. I mean, that was crazy. All right, so I and a lot of other people have thrown out the idea of, like, what if Ragnir had the devil fruit, right? Or what if Ragnir was the one that ate the devil fruit? Now, I think we're going to get the best of both worlds here, because the devil fruit should still be in the treasure chest. It seems like Ragnir is, like, enchanted, or maybe Ragnir ate a separate devil fruit to make it animated to protect the devil fruit. That seems to be the most likely outcome, where the devil fruit is inside of the chest and Ragnir is there as its guardian. Okay? You could also look at it like the chest is empty and the devil fruit is Ragnir. Now, depending on what devil fruit it is, I kind of would think it would be funny as hell for Ragnir to have the Hito Hito no Mi mythical zone model Thor. So in, like, the normal Norse mythology and in the MCU, Thor is the Norse god of thunder, lightning, and rock and roll, and he uses Mjolnir the hammer. It would be so funny if that was just flipped. And the hammer, as an object, got a Zoan that turned it into Thor. Hence the lightning abilities. I'm going with that theory. I really hope that's true. Now, if that isn't the legendary devil fruit, if that's just another devil fruit given to Ragnir the hammer to protect the actual legendary devil fruit, what is the legendary devil fruit? People have been throwing out Fenrir. Anything involving Ragnarok could be the thing. It might not be a mythical zone. It could be a Logia. You know, it could be a mythical, I mean, it could be a mythical Logia. A mythical Logia, what would that be? The ether fruit? The luminescent ether fruit, I guess. You know, it could be a Paramecia. It could be Ragnarok fruit. I don't know. It could be something, right? Loki was chained up to Yggdrasil with the Sea Prism chains. You know, what if he didn't have the devil fruit? What if it was the hammer the whole time and the hammer was being restrained? Remember that Sea Prism is the hardest substance in the One Piece world. The only thing that's ever mentioned to be as hard or equal or harder is, like, poneglyphs. Maybe poneglyphs are actually made out of something similar, not really sure. But whether or not Loki had a devil fruit or not, he would still be restrained to the tree with the chains. Okay? It did imply, I think, he maybe was a little weakened, especially when, like, Shamrock attacked him with Cerberus. So maybe he has a devil fruit that was weakened by the chains, or maybe he didn't have a devil fruit. Maybe it was the hammer that had the devil fruit this whole time. It also seems like right here, Ragnir is not happy with Loki. He doesn't want Loki coming in and stealing the devil fruit. But later on, Ragnir seems to be buddies with Loki, to the point where Ragnir is allowing Loki to pick it up and attack the tree with it. So it seems like if Ragnir is a sentient hammer, which seems to be the case, there has to be a trust built between the two. And remember, Loki is going to take Ragnir and go out to sea after this. So they're going to bond together. Maybe Ragnir is going to become Loki's best friend. The only friend that Ragnir and Loki ever had were each other, right? So at the current point in the story, yeah, he trusts him enough to wield him. So we'll see where this goes. Or maybe it's just a misunderstanding. Maybe Ragnir the hammer will speak, or maybe transform into Thor or whatever, and have a Zoan to communicate with Loki and just be like, hey, I am the guardian of this devil fruit. Who are you? Be like, I am Loki, son of Harald, the Prince of Elbaf. And maybe Ragnir will be like, oh, you're the Prince of Elbaf. Oh, okay. Yeah, that's okay then. As long as you're a member of the royal family, I'm here to protect the fruit from anybody else. So I don't know, but it's a twist I did not see coming. I should have seen Ragnir in that one panel from chapter 1152, but I did not notice it. But it was there, in fact. Okay, so yeah, Gyaban knows about what happened to Harald, so unless he got a bonk on the head or that, he is lying to Hyrudin right now to kind of just, like, make the thing go quicker of, like, yeah, you should just free Loki. I can't go into specifics, but maybe me and Shanks missed something. Yeah, maybe. And Hyrudin is like, oh, okay, Yasan, I'll trust you. You know what I mean? If he just tells him everything at once, that might be a lot for Hyrudin to take in, and he might not respond in the way that they need right now, okay? So he might be tactfully, there we go, that was the word I was thinking for. Tactfully, he might be thinking of what to do here. All right, but other than that, Really great chapter, man. I mean, we got some cool scenes with Gyaban and Shanks. Harold is fighting the urges, the Bark Urge, and he finally just goes evil. And then at the end, we have Loki fighting against a giant hammer. Great chapter. Fantastic chapter. Thanks for watching, everybody. Let me know what you think down below. My charity stream for St. Jude Children's Hospital will be this Sunday. I'm going to be home by then, hopefully. That'll be December 21st at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Be there or be square, like Ragnir. Ragnir is a square hammer. It's like a giant cube, pretty much. All right. Thanks for watching, everybody. Teching, signing out.